But yeah, so tonight, thank you for joining this event. It's a screening followed by an in-conversation, and it's called Thailand and the Making of Modernity. And we'll just be discussing some of the projects and the exhibition that's curated by Alex, and Nakrob is the solo artist featuring in this exhibition. And this screening conversation is paired in dialogue with the exhibition that I believe has just finished at Warin Lab in Bangkok. So I'll let them both introduce themselves much better than I did. And then we'll dive into the screening.
It's you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming tonight for this really special event. First of all, would really like to thank esea Contemporary for hosting us, and Julia for being so accommodating and for going through the whole process of understanding the event and providing this really interesting interlocution that you have provided. And also a big thanks to Pifon, the owner of Warin Lab Contemporary, the gallery space in which the solo exhibition of the wonderful Nakrob Moonmanas was installed. The gallery hosted the exhibition, and like Julia mentioned, it closed on 10th of July, so it has just closed. And we also would really like to thank the British Council, and particularly their Connecting Through Cultures funding programme, which is what made possible the kind of partnership and this kind of very opportune moment to think about a work that was presented in Bangkok and then to kind of recontextualize and reframe that work here in Manchester. My name is Alex Ungprateeb Flynn. I was the curator of the exhibition Metamorphosis in Gold. It was a real privilege to work with Nakrob and to curate this exhibition. I'm a professor at the University of California in the Department of World Arts and Culture and also the Department of Anthropology. And my practice really sits between LA, Sao Paulo, and Bangkok. These are the kind of the 3 points that I sort of triangulate. I work as an art theorist, but I also work as a curator, and it's been really wonderful for me to be able to dialogue with the incredible work of Nakrob Moonmanas.
Okay, so thank you so much, esea Contemporary, for make this evening event happening. And okay, Pierre, thanks to the British Council already. I would like to thank to the Office of Contemporary Art, the Ministry of Culture of Thailand, who sponsor the show as well, and as well as the Thai Film Archive that make this a process of a moving image happening. So from this exhibition, it's the activities from the exhibition that happened in Warin Lab Contemporary in Thailand, and then I am so happy to screening some principal artwork of the exhibition here. You will see the tree of moving image work that are combined together to be the principal artwork that show in the exhibition named Roop Suwan Civilization, the Metamorphosis in Gold. So the story is around the Siam, it's the previous name of Thailand in the end of 19th century. So it's the period that Thai modern state try to avoid the thing from colonization. So okay, so we will see a tree moving image first, and then we will discuss and talk more about this after. So enjoy the show. Thank you.
Great. Us three actually had a conversation over coffee before this whole screening, and I had prepared a few questions, but I've completely neglected them because I realized after the screening I have different versions of my questions now because it was so visually stimulating and eerie at the same time. I think what stuck out to me most was in the final act, Act 3, there's a scene, the penultimate scene, that all of the historical archival figures and fragments kind of rotate. Mm-hmm. And visually, it just reminds me of a merry-go-round. This is my very first memory of being afraid to go on a ride, but realizing it's actually safe and it actually doesn't move that much. But it's almost, for me, as an external eye looking into your work, it almost acts as a metaphor for something that's timeless and cannot be removed. As soon as you see this kind of spinning and rotating, it immediately points back to this childlike nature, fantasy, fantastical element of your work. And actually I realized throughout the films, this childlike quality remains in every scene. could you talk a bit more about this visual and aesthetic quality of the work and why you chose it to be kind of like fragmented and collaged?
Okay, so maybe start with me first, no? Okay, so like my name is Nakrob Moonmanas. I'm the artist based in Bangkok, Thailand. So my main principal medium is collage. So like you will see in my work, I by doing of my artwork, I have to like research, investigate a lot of story, and I compose a lot of things from like researching and like a select and like a compose it from the visual archive about like Thailand, about Siam. So my interest is like based in the story of 19th century of Thailand, because like we face a lot of foreigner, and we adapt and adopt a lot of a way of thinking and way of being as well, you know. So I'm so interested the process that Thailand like by being build the nation state, and like how we transform ourselves from the country that like maybe the Westerner we view as like the barbaric, you know, like a people, and to transform into like the one that being civilized. Maybe Pierre Alex will explain more about like the concept of the civilized that appear in the name of the exhibition as well. It's like the term that very specific term about like the Thai history in the 19th century. So I do the research a lot on this, and I think that the fragment, you know, like of the thing from the past, we can learn, we can like create the new storytelling by composing the thing from the past, but I try to like make like some alternative story as well. And you know, like in Thailand, I think like the history in the class of history in like the school in Thailand is maybe a little bit it relate a lot on like the nationalism thing. So the way that I try to tell the story in my work, I try to like survey the story that maybe like the people not very familiar with. Like for the example, in this exhibition, in this show, I try to investigate the story of one of the indigenous boy who was from the southern part of Thailand, and he was brought to the court of Siam by the ending of the 19th century. By the royal families, and he lived there in the royal court of Siam for 5 years, and then he disappeared.
Okay.
So I tried to like investigate the story about the boy, but actually like the story relate a lot of topic, you know. It's like a cultural thing, political thing, foreign affair thing. It's like everything combined together. So I think my main medium of collage, we can survey the past, and then we think about the past that okay, we can do something with it or not. Actually, we cannot eat it, you know. We cannot erase as well.
Yes.
So I think the collage that they have like some qualities that okay, we bring something from the past, but I don't want to like present it in the way that it's happened already. So I try to like try to do something more, something new with a very old element.
I think this idea, before I ask Alex a question, I think it's also really important to touch upon the idea of censorship in Thailand, because this is very, I guess, foreign to most of us sitting here. I think as we live in the UK in Western infrastructures of the institution, we rarely have much censorship, and it's very easy to say anything you want, write any way you want. You can write poetically, you can write in abstract, you can write in metaphor, but obviously censorship is, the politics is a really, I guess, crucial part of where your work stems from. So I wanted to ask, how do you see the space or encounter between your artistic practice as a filmmaker or a film artist, moving image artist, and a documentary? And how do you span and negotiate this space?
Okay. So actually, I start my work with do something collage, and I do some two-dimension artwork first, and then right now I think I work for the artist more than 10 years already. So in the recent years I try to expand my territory on doing the art things. So I try to do something sculptural things and installation things. And actually my the medium of a film is a totally new for me.
Okay.
Actually my previous artwork is more animation things, more stop motion thing, but this production is the very first time that I do shooting a quite serious thing. So I think it's very new to me as well.
Okay.
And back to the questioning of the censorship. So in my work and in the work of the author artists in Thailand as well, sometimes we touch the very sensitive point. So I think we learn we learn a lot, and we see a lot that okay, maybe something happened if we do it more directly. So I think for the Thai people we are so good in the adapt and adopt and describe things, transform something that very seriously into something maybe beautiful, maybe funny, maybe a light, maybe it's because they have so many topic in our society that maybe we don't dare, or we think that it's not that good to to point to the actual point. So we try to do something side, so we find our way to do the artwork. I try it to when I speak to the topic that's so difficult, so I try to make it beautiful, to make it I put on so many layers and try to make it subtle.
Yeah.
To so maybe people can view it in so many layers.
Yeah.
So someone maybe find my work beautiful. So maybe someone will find my work quite critical. So I think the way of working for me is something like this, and I see it in my friend in the art field and in the film field as well. I think in the art scene in Thailand, the topic of censorship is not that much than the film industry in Thailand.
Okay.
I think before we have a few movie that was banned, from the maybe the government, because some visual is so sensitive. But I think in the art world in Thailand right now it's a more developed.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, you did mention you used to work with stop motion. I think this is still very subtly present in the work, and especially talking about layers as well. Even the gentle peeling off and putting on of this paper mache, gold leaf, all of these, I guess, slow steps in relation to the slow narration. I think it all pulls together these strands. I think it also, because of the pace of the work, it also allows the audience to digest it easily in a very fun and not engageable, but engaged way. And yeah, I'm just left very curious as an external eye. But for Alex, what initially drew you to Nakrob's work, and why do you feel the urgency to present it now at this point in time?
I think, when we look at this image on the screen here, there's a whole series of different gazes that meet your gaze. But there's one particular gaze that really stands out to me, and perhaps it also stands out to you as well, which is gaze of this young boy on the front row. He's one of the only people who's actually directly engaging your gaze. He's one of the only people who is dressed in a way which doesn't have this pretension to militaristic European uniforms of that period. And there's also something very obviously different about him, in terms of his skin tone, in terms of his posture. And yet here he is, sitting in this kind of the heart of power, the royal family, not with the king present, not with King Chulalongkorn present, but this is really the center of dynastic power. It's not just King Chulalongkorn, it's the Chakri dynasty. What's interesting about, I think, Nakrob's work, and what really I thought was so fascinating about your work, was the deep and profound and rigorous research that you did in the Thai National Archives. This is an image which not a lot of people have seen before. You know, it's not a common image to see. And I think that it really says a lot about that period of Siam, its relationship to the West, the encroaching Western powers. Right? Let's not forget that Thailand at this point is being encircled by colonial powers, by the British to the west and by the French to the east. This is a pincer movement, and the Thai royal family are looking at all these territories which are consecutively falling under imperial rule, with all the colonial rape, pillage and plunder that goes along with that. So, you know, let's not kid ourselves about the stakes at play here, right? And yet at the same time, as Nakrob, you know, so kind of, you know, eloquently put it, the court at that time does something in terms of adapting and adopting modes of behavior, aesthetic forms, modes of language, modes of technological speculative practice to combat this colonial encroachment. And we see some of this apparel of modernity here in this image. We see the weapons, we see the medals, we see the orpalettes, we see the uniforms, but we also see the neoclassical Roman columns, right? Which, if any of us walk outside onto, you know, Cross Street, you'll also see those exact same neoclassical columns here in Manchester, because Manchester is also trying to do something exactly the same, right? Which is assert its kind of role as a coming power by legitimizing itself through the appropriation of aesthetic forms of the past, right? It's not for nothing that the Manchester Art Gallery exists in a building which was called the Athenaeum. That's why there are so many Greek and Roman sculptures in there, because they're trying to gesture towards ancient knowledge. Right?
Can I add something more? You
just,
will see.
Yeah, just one other detail, which is the curtain.
Yes. Okay, you are on point.
So, as we all know, Manchester made its money through textiles, and that cotton came from enslaved labour. And a lot of the Manchester elite lobbied for slavery to continue, right, in the early 19th century. Now, where did King Chulalongkorn order the elaborate fabrics that draped the Thai royal court? From Manchester textile merchants. So there's a direct connection between the court of Siam at that time and here, right here, in this exact place where we are right now. Like, this whole area was textile workshops of Pakistani immigrant workers, right, in the 1950s and 60s. That's why this and that cafe is right there around the corner, because it catered to those immigrant workers, right? So there's a direct connection. So I think that's in some ways answers this question of, like, why now? Because I think there's, through the really meticulous research that Nakrob carried out, we begin to kind of unravel the thread of not just how these colonial processes kind of like took place and operated, but also how they're so internationalized and globalized. And I think it's very easy to kind of think of our kind of newly global world as a kind of a new phenomenon, but that's completely not the case. It was already an highly interconnected world. And the Siam court is part of that nexus of connections. And Karang is just one other piece in that nexus. He's part of a civilizing project. He's an example, right, of what can be done, of who can be civilized into this new modern, this new idea of modernity, and the idea of siwilai and mai siwilai, the idea of this, of who can be civilized and who cannot be civilized. And I think this kind of, I really like the way you opened, Julia, with this kind of cascade of this whirlwind of the apparel, the symbols of modernity, and all of those symbols are so carefully observed by Nakrob. You know, you have the fork and the spoon, right? The very deliberate notion for Thai people to start eating with cutlery as opposed to with their hands to show how they were civilized, right? You have the bike, which was a present from King Chulalongkorn to Kanang when he returned from his trips to Europe. You have the Greco-Roman columns, you have the fabrics. So I think all these kinds of, this apparel of modernity, it's so kind of constitutive, and the mask connects to that idea because, we come back to where we started with the idea of the gaze here. Like the gaze is really asking who sees who, right? And I think the mask obviously connects to this, and Nakrob does that so well, I think, in your work, which is this notion of what happens to the person who puts on the mask of modernity. What occurs to the person who wears the guise of civilai? And I think that's why the title of the exhibition, Metamorphosis, is so important. Because when we wear a mask, we don't just put it on and take it off. A process of transformation already occurs to the body beneath. And I think that's something that we really wanted to explore.
Thank you, that was so much. I think this idea of, especially when Act 2, I think the whole thing at the start felt very like a slow processual process, and then as soon as it got to Act 2, the dancing, it almost felt as if the mask, it was activated in a sense, but the mask doesn't just exist as Kanang, but it also exists as this mixture of identity now, because it is not simply just the person, it's the person wearing the mask and the identity of the mask, which brings me to cultural identity, because I think we're working across loads of distances here, whether that's cultural distance, geographical distance of Thailand and the Western infrastructures, and also both of your distances. You're an international curator who you travel extensively, and Nakrob, you're based in Bangkok. So again, how do these diasporic lenses or distanced lenses shape the project? And also, what has, my next part was, how has your relationship to the Thai diaspora or the diaspora of movement or Thailand as a place changed in working together?
You're first. I'll try and be a bit more brief.
Sorry.
To my response, my previous response. I think the question of diaspora is really something that really animates my research, and also my kind of, it's a very personal inquiry. I'm part of the Thai diaspora. I'm a lukrung. I'm a half-child, right, as they say in Thai. My mother was Thai, my father was English. And I think that kind of diasporic position, and also that kind of inside-outside position, it gives you both a kind of a unique insight into something, but also a feeling that some secrets will never be revealed. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that perhaps some secrets aren't meant to be revealed. And in fact, there's a great deal of beauty in that mystery as well. But I think that perhaps that's another reason why it was so interesting to work with Nakrob. Because through this kind of speculative archival investigation, there's a kind of there's a pretension to try and understand, what is this Thailand? But at the same time, it's a speculative process. It's distinct to a kind of a social science research process, for example, which is something that I've also done. And so I think that kind of fine line between different forms of trying to get to the bottom of different questions, it's something which I think comes from that diasporic position. But I think, to answer your question more directly, in terms of what is the Thailand, what is this Thailand, what is the making of modernity, I think that it's really about a series of partial histories. Thailand cannot be subsumed into one singular narrative of one singular story. And I think that's what Nakrob's work so beautifully kind of invites us to do. And I think that's again, due to the subtlety that you work with. Like you don't tell anyone what to think about what Thailand is. You leave it to people to kind of engage with your work and come to their own conclusion. And I think that ultimately, the centering of Kanang as a protagonist, I think, is really interesting in this because it really encourages us to think about what are these minoritarian discourses in Thailand, and there are many of them. Whether it's like people from the borders, right, that surround Thailand, or whether it's the diaspora itself and how it exists in different configurations around the world. I think there are many, many different stories to be told, and I think that's the kind of Thailand that I would like to kind of explore more and think more about. I don't know how you feel about your relationship to Thailand now.
Okay, so by doing this exhibition, I asked myself a lot on so many questions that I can do this kind of story or not, because I totally aware that I'm not the indigenous people. I can tell the story of him. I can or I cannot, and being doing in the exhibition as well. I think about the topic that Pierre point out, being Thailand, right now I see the Thai people that somehow we are so Thai, we are so would like to go back to the period before civilization, we go back to a very conservative things, but somehow we would like to be one of the global citizens as well. Somehow in some moment, I think that being Thai right now is a very, very, something in between. We are still finding our identity again. Because when I look into the story by the end of the 19th century, we would like to be like the Westerner be. But right now, maybe we feel something like this. We would like to I think somehow right now we face again the identity crisis, and actually it's always happened to our nation as well, in the period of 19th century as well. So I think it's around this kind of topic as well.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, about cultural identity and defining cultural identity, because I think you're right. It's never a singular narrative. It's never a solo form. And I was reading a book called Familiar Stranger by Stuart Hall recently, and he talks about cultural identity as a process that's continuously becoming. But also some scholars or critics criticize this theory because I guess this work is a part of, freezing the time and picking out this element or a certain picture of cultural identity in the moment. And I think these slots within time, are really important for us to, just surface and discuss together. I have more questions, but I'm aware of time that we should open the floor to the audience. And if anyone has any questions, very eager, yes.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm the HJPK PhD from Buddhist University. I'm living in Manchester 24 years and in Birmingham for 5 years. So now, referring to Dr. Alex, as I know him in personality over 20 years. I know his mom and the dad, and when I did my research PhD, his father is look after my professor, supervisor. So now I look at this. Both of you present this very, very interesting, and do my memory. When I was 7 years old, I learned about this topic, so that I remember 45 years ago. So now, in my point, I'm very happy. I would like to say that look at in the past, you will see the future. And also refer to the king of Mufan. When he is 7 years old, he became a novice monk for 3 months. And then before he become a king, he become a monk again. because in the royal family role, the person who become a king or a royal family have to become a novice. So and referring to this year 170 year and 170 anniversary of the Thai embassy in London. So return to the history, the Buddhism, like the king number 5 or the king number 1 until number 10, they become a monk before become a king. That's and also in Buddhism in the UK over 65 years ago. In Manchester we have Buddhist center over 60 years. And also referring to the one monk study Buddhism in India, in Delhi, with the one man from Cambridge University. And also after they finished Buddhism in India, they walked from India to UK, spending 2 months. And also BBC took a film, interviewed him. So now he's still alive, Ajahn Bunman, just now he 84 years old. He walked from India to the UK. And also on the time, because both of them studied Buddhism and walked from India to UK for propagate Buddhism without a car. But they walk and some car and they walk from 2 months on the time. I think that 65 years ago. So anything I just appreciate with the both of you. So, and also I will bring, as I living here in the UK, like my home, maybe like Manchester, here to find it 80 years ago in Manchester, First time when I came to Manchester, I walk around, spend maybe 5 hours to walk around Manchester. Like first time I came to London, I walked nearly 5 hours around London. And also the beginning of this year, I just walked 500 kilometers from Thailand to it's like a walk for peace. And also 2 weeks ago, I walked to Lancor and weekend over 50 kilometers. So now I appreciate and thank you for all of you to invite the monk to let me know. I'm living here a long time. And also it's my monk. We have at the moment we got the 7 monks in the temple.
Wow.
And not far from here 7 miles. And also there are 23 acre land for the temple. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
I think something so interesting that you say, this idea of looking into I wanted to just, exactly, and I also the notion that the story of Kanang is familiar to you.
When I was young, and also I got 2 words, Hani and Mani. Hani like a human being, Mani in Thai, Manut. Manut just means human being as well. So the words come from Pali, Mani or Manut. Manut studies means the person who has a good heart or generous heart. Mani and Hani. That's I got the 2 words now. And also sometimes Mani become the animal. Sometimes become the Lianpa. So this means the born again and die born again in the cycle, samsara. That word I got. But
I think the samsara cycle is so important actually in your work in a very subtle way, because it really hints at the question of temporality that I believe is really central to Nakrob's work, which is there are so many references in the Sangtong. So in Sangtong there are so many, which is the second act, the Princess Rajana and Frasang, who is the kind of courting her with and the garland is being dangled in front of him, but he never, in the original story, the garland is given to him and he wins the heart of the princess. But in Nakrob's retelling, the garland is never actually given. And the garland here, I think, we can speculate as to whether it represents Sivalai or not, but whether it's Sivalai is ever given. But I think that this idea of the accumulated merit, because merit is mentioned so many times, if through the merit of my actions she may see my golden body. And this notion of a kind of a temporality which goes beyond a singular lifetime, and how that temporality intersects with the linear and very finite and teleological temporality of modernity, right? Which is like a straight line which goes from here, underdeveloped, to kind of developed to fully developed, right? And then you reach the end of history, which is like, okay, we're fully developed. It's Los Angeles, 2049. You know what I mean? And that is so, that linear teleological version of modernity is in such contrast to this Buddhist notion of samsara and the merit which is accumulated through lifetimes. And that comes through in the third act as well, I think.
Yeah, and there is like something connecting to the Buddhism as well, because like the literature Sang Thong, some scholars said that like there was a monk in the northern part of Thailand 200 years ago, and he tried to like gathering all the story of the life of the Buddha himself. It's like we call Chataka. It's like the past life of the Buddha. It's like this monk from Chiang Mai. She gathering more than 50 Chataka about the life of the Buddha. And one of like his life, the monk said that it's like the story of Suvarna Sangchadok. It's like the original story of Sang Thong as well. So in some way, like the Golden Prince and Mani was Buddha himself as well. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, thank you very much. Next time, I would, if possible, if I invited you to the temple and we have 100 people can sit. Last time we have 1,500 people came to the temple. If we have the function, next week, 26, we have the function. Maybe 400 people came to the temple, come to the temple. You can show for 1 hour or for 30 minutes.
Oh, we should show some art in the temple as well.
400 people,
Because right now,
26, if you got the time, we can.
yeah, right now in Bangkok, we also have like a thing called the Bangkok Biennale, and like some of the venue of Bangkok Biennale are the temple. It's like a Wat Po, Wat Arun. So maybe it's good, Tan.
Do we have any more questions? I have another question about voice, if I may. I don't really know where this is going, but as I talked about distance before, about cultural distance, but also there's a lot of distance within the subtlety of the Act 3 itself. It's like you can hear this narration, but the masks, obviously, their mouths aren't moving. Like when we see a typical animation, the characters are obviously animated. They're like jumping around, they're talking to each other, and we can see the movement of the lips, we can see the body language. But with this, it's almost like static puppets. And the narration feels more like, obviously it's your mother tongue, but to me, it almost sounds like just a very conversational, very normal conversation. Very normal, everyday, normal conversation. But then obviously the narrator and the character, they maintain a distance from each other. And I was just wondering, what's your artistic process and where does your voice come in all this? Especially because we talked about you come from an English literature background.
No, like a Thai literature.
Sorry, English literature. I was speaking to someone who does English. Yeah, sorry, I'm.
No, it's okay.
Literary background. So obviously, when you write and when you think, it's all written first.
Okay. So as
Just as a quick clarification, like in the first act, the narration that you're hearing while the mask is being made, these are literary fragments from accounts of people who lived contemporaneously to Kanang. So these are princes and princesses of the court, read by people from Bangkok, because these are all Bangkokians, talking about Kanang. Whereas in Act 3, the narration that you hear is from Atsri Manang, who is the Mani community member who Nakrob spoke to and spent time with and interviewed, talking about Kanang from a Mani perspective. So there's a deliberate kind of juxtaposition there between Bangkok perspective and someone from the Mani people speaking about Kanang himself.
Okay.
Yeah, so for this show, I didn't wrote something
Okay.
because I just like compose the thing from the past and try to like the compose the story that happened, like the voice of like the people in the court, the voice of like the contemporary money communities, and like in the Act 2, it's like the Thai literature wrote by the King Rama II. I just adapt only like a one word.
I see.
Which is the name of the exhibition in Thai, because in like in the original poetry I switch only one word. So I put like the word civilized into the poetry of the King Rama II to it's like the joy to combine like the two story together. It's like the story of like a Sang Thong. It's like belong to like the past life of the Buddha. And then another story is like the dance drama that King Chulalongkorn wrote by like investigate like the story of the Mani people from Kanang who live in the court as well.
Okay.
So I put a little bit to have like the open interpretation, open into like the narrative story. So in like in totally in the show, it's like the word from the past, not my word.
Okay.
But I think there are so many, like going back to this idea of temporalities, there are so many different kind of, Nakrob mentioned layers before, there are different temporal layers within the kind of the work. So first off you have King Mongkut, Rama II,
Princess
well, there's Princess Pumpisimai,
yeah.
the historical documents. So these are 1890s. Then you have Rama II, which is 1820, right, which is
and we also have like the article from like the Professor Thongchai Vinujakul, who is like a very important in the US as well. So we combine a lot of tech together, a voice of like many people that speak around Kanang. So some sentence is very, when we read right now, it's like a very, very mean thing.
And I think that kind of like King Mongkut, 1820s, talking about the legend of Frasang and the Sangtong. And then you have Not Ba, which is King Chulalongkorn's epic poem. And then you have these historical documents from the archive. So you have these three different timelines. And then you also have Nakrob's voice in there as well. And I think this is where your kind of artfulness kind of emerges, which is a sort of a voice which speaks through the composition and juxtaposition of these different voices, fragmented and put together, which brings us back to the notion of collage. Because I think the collage in Nakrob's work is not just kind of on a sort of two-dimensional visual level, but it's also operating at a temporal level as well, in the way that different kind of temporalities are being put together. And in the example of the kind of the teleological line of modernity versus the cyclical nature of samsara, right? In that case, totally oppositional to me. So I think that, and in those kinds of interstices where these things kind of collide and come together and overlap and then move apart again, you were speaking about distance before, but I think there's also a lot of proximity in Nakrob's work as well. I think that it's in those sort of closing and opening of spaces that Nakrob's voice, I think, if I could be so bold as to kind of suggest, that I think Nakrob's voice really emerges, but it's always within a very, very subtle way. Like I say, you never tell anyone what to think, which is why I admire your work so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your sharing an extensive answer. We probably have time for one more question before we have to close. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. It's really lovely to actually hear a lot of Thai work and like excerpts from Thai literature once again. My question revolves around translation because I actually, as you all discussed previously, the words in Thai, and I was trying to read Thai, listen, and also read English text at the same time, and I kind of picked up that the translation very much removes a lot of the very tense and very as you said, it's really needed.
It's of
Yes, yes,
it's
yes.
of its time, I think.
Yes, it's also because of time, and I know that in the past, the use of words, the use of vocabulary, sometimes it's common to to say things. But I'm wondering about the process of translation. How do you work with translating something from the past to the present and translating something from one language to another?
Okay.
Great question.
So the translation thing is quite a big part of this show as well, because it's so complicated and it's so difficult, because in two the two acts, the act two, it's only a poetry, and how we can translate a Thai poetry into English poetry. It's a very hard, and I try to reach to many professional translator, and they said that it's super difficult. So so finally I found some of my senior in the faculty of art, because my major was Thai literature now. And so I asked him how we can translate this into English, and he said that they have a two-way to translate. One the first way is okay, we just translate it to make everything understandable, and the second way is a difficult way. It's we try to make it at the poetry as well, So hard thing. So we decide together that okay, we would go to the second way. So but I really aware that okay, if we go to the second way, something will lost in translation. Yeah, but okay, as the literature student, I very aware that we cannot totally translate something into another language that keep all the things the poetic, the meaning. We cannot transfer something beyond the boundary of the language as well. And this is the process of the poetry translation. And we have some translation from the text from the past as well, and the translation, the interview with the Manang, one of the Mani committee as well. So it hard as well, because some language from the Act One, it from the not the language we speak today. Something we have to refer, research a lot of that how to translate it into English. But it helped a lot when I found one of the translation of Sang Thong into English poetry. So someone I asked the translator who translate the whole book, and then I would like to use this word into the video as well, and they give the permission to have it.
But I think there's something very interesting about the harshness that you detected has been slightly glossed over. And in the there's one particular example that I remember, because I worked on the translations myself as well for Act 3. And in the interview of the Mani community member who is remembering Khanang, he says that the subtitles say that the Mani children, it's good that they don't go to work with the Hami, the townsfolk, right? The Konwan, because they will make us serve them. But in what he actually says in Thai is that they will make us their slaves, right? And I deliberately glossed that translation to take out the harshness, because I felt as though it puts in something very complex and an entirely different layer. But that layer is also really valid and important. And I think that it's exactly, I really appreciate this question. Thank you for asking it, because I think that there's a delicate balance to strike in using the direct translations of the language of the time, which are brutal and inscribed with all the brutalities of that time, but also kind of trying to allow the viewer to engage with the work on their own terms in a way and not be kind of over-determined by the language. But I do think that the harshness of the language, it points to this notion that we're really working with a series of constructs which they point to a reality which is really inescapable. And I think that the level with which we tried to engage with them was a lot of it metered by language. But I do think that it's very important that a lot of those difficulties do come to light. And I think they do. There are a lot of kind of harsh points in the text. And it's important in the sense that it's very different an artist, a white artist from New York doing this work than Nakrob doing this work, I think. That question of positionality, I think, is connected to the decisions around which points of harshness to allow to come to the surface. Those questions of positionality of the artist are super connected to that. And I think it would be an entirely different exhibition and with a whole series of really ethically complex questions if it were a different artist doing this work. Because these are stories like Mahapaganon mentioned, that Thai children have grown up with these stories. These are stories that are part of Thai school children's histories, right? These are stories that people have engaged with their whole lives. It's a very different positionality to someone from the outside coming in and kind of isolating something and picking something and kind of putting it center stage. And I think that's what's really good about, incredibly interesting about Nakrob's work here, that he doesn't shy away from these really complex questions. Those questions are there, and they can be investigated and talked about and discussed. But yet, there's that kind of very fine line, like I say, of not wishing to really over-determine like the experience of the spectator, the viewer.
Yeah, I recently read something about translation as actually a process of grief and losing some of the meaning when you translate to a different language. And it's the process of betraying your mother tongue to be able to digest it to an unfamiliar or external audience. And so, yeah, I guess translation basically becomes transformation. And on that note, as we go full circle of Metamorphosis in gold, we'll have to end our event here. So yeah, thank you so much, both of you, for giving us not just your time, but also your intellectual and artistic sharing. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.